I'm the Chuck and the Market's Up, Chuck. And today's blog was titled, "This is no Band-Aid." Y'all might have noticed that Johnson & Johnson is continuing to make strategic acquisitions. Yesterday they announced that they took roughly an 18% stake in Crucell, which is a company that out of the Netherlands that builds that's in the vaccine business, giving them another entry into a high growth market. But this is a very broad-based consumer products company that's also medical diagnostics and devices, as well as a large pharmaceutical business. But everybody knows who Johnson & Johnson is. What I wanted to do is look at it from the perspective of how it's gone through the recession and how the market normally values it. So the green line here with the white triangles, as hopefully you know by now, represents earnings per share growth. They've averaged 11.7% growth. They went through the recession extremely well, with actually showing decent growth, if only a modest flattening. I want you to notice the market has generally priced Johnson & Johnson above its earnings growth or above its earnings line, giving it a premium. I call it a quality premium. So you can look in here, it started the period overvalued, but thanks to the recession, it ended the period undervalued or below its earnings line for really the only time in this roughly 14 3/4 or 14, almost 15-year period. From a track record point of view, $100,000 in Johnson & Johnson at the beginning of 1997 or the end of 96 would have averaged about 7% a year compounded, turning 100,000 to 252. That's in a market where the market only did 3.7%, so it did, roughly double what the market did. But it also paid a great dividend. But back then, if you bought it in 1996, the dividend yield was only 1.5%. And of course, they've increased the yield every year. The yield's grown at about their growth rate. The dividend has increased by around 10% a year, roughly. That's not a precise number. You can see it went from 37 cents a share to 42 cents a share, et cetera. So since, over the last 15 years on a $100,000 investment, you'd have received $67,000 in dividends, including current estimates. But I also want you to notice that last year you'd received about $7,458, or your yield would have gone from 1.5% up to 7.5%. So it's a terrific company that went through the recession and, started the period somewhat overvalued. It's now currently undervalued, and our economy is beginning to improve. So the question is, in every adversity is an opportunity, and the opportunity here to be able to pick up names like Johnson & Johnson at discounts to their normal valuation that still have good growth potential, and as the economy gets better and improves, there's no reason, at least in my opinion, to believe this company can't, return to its normal growth. Maybe not quite as fast as it has historically, but certainly somewhere, in between 5 and 10% growth with a 3% dividend yield. And that's the point I want to make. The dividend yield right now is twice what you would have, twice what you can get had you bought it back in, early 1996. So, this is Chuck Carnival saying, take a look at some of the real blue chips out there. Some of these companies, like Johnson & Johnson, really haven't really caught up to the market. They've improved. Obviously, Johnson & Johnson is, off of its $46 low at $60 a share, but it's still, below its all-time high of, 69 and almost $70 a share. So this might be one you might want to take a look at and do some research on. Good dividend, certainly a blue chip. This is Chuck Carnival saying thanks for listening. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.